Friends, this non-Adventist visited one of our churches in the US, and this is what he said about the SDA church.
For today's visit, we're going to be going to Waukesha, Wisconsin to attend a Seventh-day Adventist church.
In fact, this video is going to be longer than usual, but I think it is worth watching the entire video because what this man said about the SDA church, friends, you need to listen to it. So with that being said, let's get right into the video, and I'll come back and share my thoughts at the end. Remember, you can also share your thoughts in the comment section. All right, so let's get right into the video.
My name is David. This is week 16 of 52 churches in 52 weeks. Each week we jump into a car and we drive to a different church each week to explore spirituality in a different setting, and also just to kind of see what happens to one's faith by intentionally church hopping each week. For today's visit, we're going to be going to Waukesha, Wisconsin to attend a Seventh-day Adventist church. In the first 52 and 52, I write about how I was planning to go to a Seventh-day Adventist church. I looked up the website, got the time, went there on a Sunday morning, and as soon as I got into the parking lot, no one was there. And I didn't learn until, oh gosh, I want to say maybe a year later, where a Seventh-day Adventist church, they have services on Saturday, not on Sundays. So that morning I just went to a different church and completely forgot to go to a different Seventh-day Adventist church. One of my big questions after that visit is, why Saturday? Why are there no services on a Sunday? And also, anytime afterwards where I heard about Seventh-day Adventist churches, it typically wasn't in a good light. So for me today, I want to understand why Saturday, but also, can I remove some of the biases that I've taken away anytime that I've heard Seventh-day Adventist churches labeled, certain terms for a church body that I have no idea about and I haven't done much research into. So for today's church visit, I'm expecting a plain Jane type of worship service. Worship music, sermon, bada bing, bada boom, and done. So I'm not expecting to learn a whole lot to dive deeper into the theology, but I want to be shoulder to shoulder with Christians, brothers, sisters in faith to understand what a Seventh-day Adventist church is like. So going to drive over there. Let's go. So got back from the Seventh-day Adventist church, and I need to preface this video real briefly first. With these videos, I don't want to come across as Mr. Church Critic and try and find faults when it comes to a church that just is not connecting with me. And at the same time, though, I want to be real, I want to be honest, I want to be authentic with these videos at the same time. And I'm coming in with certain biases and certain past experiences that may create some type of negative perception when I first encounter something. So with this particular church visit, my first impressions were not good. And I'll get into that in a minute. But everything was flipped upside down later on, resulting in a really positive experience. First off, when I got there, there was no one greeting me at the door or anyone. And walked inside, looked like there were two women. I want to say they were probably around retirement age. And they didn't greet me at the door because I think they were more entertained by a little child that had come in. Looked like he was brand new to walking. So they were distracted and they got talking with the parents. When I went through the narthex area, that little child that was walking, he was getting more attention from everybody. And again, I just kind of scooted right by. I think I was supposed to be given a piece of paper as my bulletin, but no one gave me anything. So I got into the worship area, took a seat. With my peripheral vision, I could kind of tell there were some retired women to my side, and they looked very stoic. Like they weren't really moving at all. And I just felt, because no one said hi to me, no one welcomed me, I kind of learned how important that is to have someone at least say hi. So you kind of have some kind of personal human contact when you walk in. And when that doesn't happen, man, it just kind of snowballs from there if you're a first-time visitor. It's been a very long time since I wasn't welcomed. So service started, and I would say 3 women and 1 gentleman got up on stage, and they kind of led the worship, hymns, and procession. I would say probably their average age had to be about 65 years old, and it felt so much like an 80s TV televangelist type of show, like Hour of Power, Crystal Cathedral kind of feel to it. And growing up myself, watching some of those shows on Sunday mornings before church, they were always grouped those with those 1-800 televangelist TV shows where they push, call this 800 number, give us your credit card number, and God will bless you, this prosperity gospel kind of stuff. So I was associating the worship with that type of 80s TV show, and it just left a negative impression in my head. So after the first hymn, a gentleman got up, and kind of like that Hour of Power kind of thing, they had little catchy phrases when it came to tithing. So the gentleman mentioned that offerings and tithing is sermon without words. And sure enough, a bunch of children got out with some collection plates, and they started serving the offering. So here's what the offering cards looked like. And you just put your money in there. They were very detailed when it came to where the tithings were going. But I've never been to a church before where the tithing was done 5 minutes at the start of worship. So after that got done, then a second offering happened. And this was done by children probably aged 4 through 8. They all these little legs just got up front, and they grabbed these neon colored mini shopping baskets. And they all went through the church. I'd say probably about 50 people were in this church. Very diverse, by the way. The diversity was fantastic here. And so when the kids got their dollar bills from everyone in the church, they put all the money in this dollhouse looking mini church. And a kid came up, and he was dressed to the nines. And he got up to lead one of the epistle readings of Mark. And then he participated with his mother, who was playing piano, and he played his violin. And this kid did phenomenal. Like, I could not believe, he had to be about 10 or 11 years old, but absolutely fantastic for what he did. And so at this point, like, I'm turned off by the 80s vibe. I'm turned off because no one has welcomed me. I don't have any connection with anyone in this church. I'm surrounded by about 50 strangers. And then now you have this kid, this violin maestro, phenomenal, but he missed a couple notes, and now he's just emotionally just needs to get back to his center. And then Jose got up. And as I learned, the pastor for this church, I don't know where he was. He must be on vacation, sabbatical, I don't know. But Jose got up, and I would say he was probably mid-20s, well-dressed. During the sermon, I think he mentioned he was from the Dominican Republic. He was a complete fresh face for everything that had happened so far. And it's fascinating because then he was very relatable. He was likable, charismatic. So his sermon talked about examples of great faith. Living faith. And one thing that he mentioned is some of the best examples of that came from unbelievers. So think of the centurion in the New Testament. Think of Saul to Paul. So his sermon focused on Naaman. Who is Naaman? I didn't remember. So he goes into 2 Kings, And he kind of mentions how Naaman was a commander of the Syrian army, and he had gained favor with God. Not an Israelite, a Syrian, the enemy. And as he continued with his sermon, it kind of mentioned how he had a wife, and the wife had a Hebrew slave, a young girl. And the problem with Naaman is that he had leprosy. He was this great warrior, he was this great general, but with leprosy, that was kind of his Achilles heel. And in the story, there's a bunch of political things going on, and eventually he tries to get Elisha to cure his leprosy. Elisha is basically like, nah, I don't want to be there. So he sends off a messenger boy to tell Naaman to go into the ugly, dirty bathwater of the Jordan River and wash himself 7 times or whatever. And Naaman is furious. Like he's, you know, the big macho man. He wants to have Elisha, this amazing prophet, appear to him because he's Mr. Important. But the slave girl kind of mentions and kind of convinces Naaman that, no, like don't go all crazy on this. Like, believe in God and repent. And Naaman repents. He goes into the Jordan River. Sure enough, he's cured of his leprosy. His skin is made anew. And that's kind of the story. So with Hosea, he kind of mentions where it's like, yeah, with God, sometimes the best examples of salvation, of faith, it can start from someone as young as a young child. So I'm just like, Hosea, like, where did you come from? Like, this was, like, he was a web designer. He wasn't a pastor. But it was probably one of the best sermons I've heard during my whole 52 churches and 52 weeks so far. So just absolutely phenomenal. As I was leaving, a gentleman walked up to me. He shook my hand, and he thanked me for visiting. And I'm like, I didn't know anyone knew that I was a visitor because no one had said anything to me. So further walking out, I shook hands with Jose. Just told him, man, your sermon was so fresh. Like, I really appreciated it. And I'm just about to walk out, and a lady invited me to join downstairs for a little potluck. In the past, as Mr. Introvert, I never would accept that. But for this current journey, I'm like, you know what? Why not? So walked downstairs and waited for their potluck to start. So eventually, I want to say her name was Grandma Mo. She introduced herself, and she had been talking to another newcomer named Tony. And Tony was also talking with Tony. It's like he almost was kind of like me to a certain extent. Like he was visiting different churches and trying to find his own truth for himself. So even though we had only been talking for 2 minutes, when we joined line, everyone thought that we were together as friends. And it was like, no, we just met each other a few minutes ago too. So got some food, and eventually we both decided to just sit next to Jose and his friend. And we got talking, and just fantastic conversation. Just kind of learn about each other. He also did, like, because I was curious. It's like, okay, like, you're a web designer, but you're so gifted with today's sermon. Like, how'd you do that? And he kind of mentioned, it's like, yeah, I don't want to copy anyone. I want it to be fresh. I want it to be me. So one thing I didn't learn is, why is a Seventh-day Adventist church on Saturdays? So as I was walking to my car, I bumped into Tony again. And we got talking, and just due to, like, we got really deep into conversation, and we were probably talking for a good 20 minutes in the parking lot. Eventually, the whole idea about Seventh-day Adventists with the church service on Saturdays got brought up. And he had done some research on this. So the thing that he told me is, in the year 321, the Roman Emperor Constantine, he was, I guess with the Romans at that time, like, they worshipped a sun god at the dawn of each Sunday. That was the Roman custom. So they would pray to their sun god Sunday mornings. Here's the thing. when it came to the Sabbath, and I think with a lot of Christians, we always think of the Sabbath on Sunday. But if you think about it, the 7 days of creation, the 7th day of the week is Saturday. So the Sabbath is Saturday. Why did it change to Sunday? So the reason that he researched, and I did a Google search myself, and sure enough, it's there. So I kind of want to investigate it a little bit more. But Constantine kind of jumped on the Christian bandwagon a little bit, but kind of was trying to keep his pagan religion going on with the sun god. And with the Catholic Church, they decided to kind of make it where the Sundays would be the day of church, would be the new type of Sabbath day. And with Seventh-day Adventists, they want to keep with the original of the Sabbath being on Saturday. And it's like, is that true? Like, it just makes my head spin to a certain extent. I need to do more research on that. But that just kind of just threw me for what's going on with that. But yeah, that was pretty much my entire experience with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Terrible first impression. Completely restored and made fresh as soon as Jose got up and started talking. So I think it kind of shows the importance of having young blood, of having someone new within a church to really kind of revitalize and bring new people in. So tell you what, that's going to wrap up week 16. Hope you enjoyed today's video.
So friends, that is what he said about the SDA church after he visited one of our churches in the US. You heard everything that he said. But I want to say that even before he visited the church, friends, he had already heard some of the lies that people are saying about the church.
So where I heard about Seventh-day Adventist churches, it typically wasn't in a good light.
Especially the lies or the false claim that the SDA church is a cult. But I think if this man would carefully study the SDA church, he would come to realize that all that he has heard about the church is not true. They are just false claims that some Christians are actually saying about the SDA church. And friends, before I continue, I want to say that the SDA church, maybe there are some people that are watching me that are not Seventh-day Adventists, but I want to say that the SDA church is a Christian denomination. It's a Protestant Christian denomination, all right? And we believe and follow exactly what the Bible says, all right? I think the man should research more about what the Seventh-day Adventist church is, or who Adventists are, all right? And he's going to know the truth. And the second part of the story is his claim that no one welcomed him when he entered the church.
I'm turned off because no one has welcomed me. I don't have any connection with anyone in this church. I'm surrounded by about 50 strangers.
Personally, I would say I have not seen something like that in the SDA church. In fact, I have been making videos about the SDA church for a long time, about 1 or 2 years, no, about more than 2 years, and I have never seen something like that in the SDA church. So maybe this was a different kind of experience that this man had. In fact, it was not good, all right? But I want to say that this should be a lesson to all Seventh-day Adventists, because, friends, we don't know who is visiting us, and you don't know the kind of impression we are giving to our visitors. So we should be very smart enough to identify visitors even as they enter into our churches on the Sabbath. And after that point was made, he also shared something about the sermon, and I thank God that he found the sermon so helpful. All right, God actually spoke to him. At the beginning, he had bad impression, but in the middle or at the end of the service, by God's grace, he was able to find some nice people to talk with, and in fact, he found good people in the church. So I thank God for that. But still, we need to learn, right? We need to grow, especially that church. You know that church is now exposed. That Seventh-day Adventist church is now exposed, friends. So friends, this is all that I had to share with you today. Remember that here on this channel we share with you what you need to know. I mean, events that are taking place within and outside of the SDA church. So be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any video we publish. Friends, if you want to connect with me, you have my email address right down there on your screens. So thanks for watching, friends. See you next time. My name is Lawrence.